Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Joe Byrd, welcome to ATV Talk. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great, Lane. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Hey, you had a little trouble back there. What happened?
Man, we had some, they said an EF2 tornado, like 4 or 5 of them came through this area, and I lost one of my sheds, lost the whole thing, and I lost 47 trees. It was just a nightmare, and a lot of shingles, lost one of my roofs. It was, we're lucky. We were 3:27 at night, or in the morning AM. My phone goes off, the alarm goes off, and at 3:30 it hit. So we didn't have time. I got a storm shelter just outside. We didn't have time to get to the storm shelter. It was that quick and that bad. And the wife, me and Mallory were sitting in the hallway and going, man, I literally thought the house was going to blow away and the roof was about to go off. Funny story. Mallory goes, "Can I go get some clothes on? I don't want the firemen to come see me like this." I said, "You better hurry up because we're about to get blown away." So we got lucky and nobody around here got killed. A lot of damage. I got almost $130,000 worth of damage to the property and the fences, and lost, like I said, one building, and over my dad's house. He lost a huge tree. It went over his driveway. One hit his house. We got some substantial damage, but we're all okay, and we're just been rebuilding ever since.
Wow, that's kind of exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'd say it's exciting.
Is that the first time anything like that's ever happened?
I've got 75 acres here. The other side of the property, I had a tornado hit just one little corner of it, and it took about 10 trees out, but nothing, we just pushed them in the weeds, no big deal. But other than that, we've had just, it's danced around us, but nothing actually has hit here. So,
well, when we first connected this time, you gave me a little tour of some of the property. And right now, not everybody's going to be able to see this. When it comes out on YouTube, they will. But right now, I'm staring there looking at where the magic happens and how you get in shape.
Yeah.
We've had multiple conversations about this, but we've never got deep into the conversation about training, about things that you need to do to be a professional racer or to be a professional athlete at that most. I want you to get a little serious here and let's talk some training or preparation, however you want to determine it, to be an ATV racer. I know that it was a long educational process for you, and for you to race as long as you did, you had to perfect it.
And I had to change as I got older, and if I knew what I knew at 25 or 21 when I won my first race, I would have probably got to win more races and been in better shape, because if you can, train yourself and do all the blood work and eat everything right in your 20s, you're an animal. I mean, I was doing it until I was 45 years old, and I did decent, in my 40s, but I didn't reach my peak until I was in my 30s because I went to school for exercise physiology and physical therapy. So I learned some doing that, but nothing is like on the job training. I try this, it didn't work. I eat this, it didn't work. I take blood samples and I do talk to my doctors, and you don't know what your body's doing until you actually see it on paper. You're lacking magnesium, you're lacking zinc or iron or whatever it may be. So you can't just go wide open and train like some of these guys are doing. And there's some guys out there right now that are doing it and they're getting Epstein-Barr virus left and right because you overtrain. Overtraining is worse than undertraining. So you really need to learn your body, and what works for Joe Byrd don't work for Lenny Duncan or John Natale or Doug Gust or Joel Hetrick or Chad Wiener. Everybody's different. I know Chad's on this weird diet that he's on now that it's not for me. I'm like totally against his diet, but it may work for him. I don't think it is. He's not doing so good. But it may, everybody's different. I'm not picking on Chad. I'm just saying his body reacts to different things to my body. And that's one big thing that I had to learn throughout the years. Trial and error, because I taught myself how to race, how to train, all these riding schools is all trial and error. You know, that's why I was in my 30s before I started winning. But, you know, you have to really pay attention to yourself. And these young guys are just going wide open. They need to slow down and you do the blood work and get the right training in, and they'll be studs before they're, you know, 25, 30 years old. You know, none of us, like you said, on the last, most of the top pro quad racers are in their 30s, you know, and that's because, you know, you have to, it's a big learning curve. You know, we're almost like a half a motorcycle and half a trophy truck, all wrapped up in one. You know, it's a lot of setup that goes along with it. And the new kids, the first thing, you and I talked yesterday about this, the first thing I do in my riding school, I teach bike setup. You know, most of these younger guys, they don't know anything about bike setup. They better know how to put air pressure in tires, you know. So
When you're talking about blood work, do you have a nutritionist, like, or a doctor that you go see, a sports medicine doctor, or do
yes,
you go to your regular doctor?
you can actually do both, but anybody that does, you know, you can ask them what you want to do. But most people do, you know, anything with, you know, a lot of the doctors do these testosterone shots now. That's not necessarily the answer, but anything with, you know, where you're checking all your levels with, I'm trying to think what the word's called. I'll think of it in a minute, but yeah, any doctor can do that, but a sports medicine doctor will get a better lab, you know, lab chart out on you and know exactly what you need to do. So
Did you, what was your diet restrictions when you were in your 20s compared to your 30s?
you know, your hormones change as you get older, and that's one lab panel you really do to see what your hormones are at, your blood levels, and all that stuff. But far as I've always ate good, except for the last year or so. Since I retired, I'm eating donuts, you know. But I'm just being funny. But I've always tried to eat good, but I could eat more when I was younger and get the same results as I had to eat cleaner as I got older. I'd say my 20s and 30s were similar. I just knew I didn't eat as clean in my 20s because I just didn't know any better. You know, I just ate groceries, you know, out in California racing to Mickey Thompson's and eating whatever I could eat, you know, and you burn everything off, but you're not fat, but your blood, it tells a story. So you're getting more arm pump. You're not recovering as good, and you're 25 years old. So you need to do that so your blood's talking to you, you know. And so when I got into my 30s, I would start doing more blood work, and especially when I got in my 40s, I really had to do a bunch of blood work because, you know, you don't recover. Well, it seemed like the day I turned 40, everything went to hell. You know, I used to ride 2 days on, 1 day off. When I got to my 40s, I'd ride 1 day on, 2 days off. So, but you don't have to ride. It's the quality of training that you have to do versus the quantity, you know. So some of these guys just go out and just ride all day long, and they're practicing bad technique. And Travis Moore was on my team, and I had my ex-wife Heather and my ex-girlfriend Adrian, and, you know, I had a bunch of other friends, and you know, Greg Miller and Kirkland Jack. All these guys won championships. Aaron Myers won championships, you know, and Clay Holmes won championships, and, you know, I got a list a mile long. You know, these Argentina champions for here. And what I would do, I would gauge myself off them, you know, like tortoise in hair, and there's my rabbit. I let them take off, and I would pass them. Whenever I'd pass them, we're instructed to skip a section and get back in front of me. So they're pushing as hard as they can go, and I'm passing all these guys. You know, I'd have 10, 12 guys at a time every day out here training. So it's like we're racing, dropping it. You know, we drop the gate. We do like 10 practice starts. We come back and we take off, and I let everybody take off in front of me. And every time I'd pass them, they were instructed. So everybody's lap time was the same. If it's a 2-minute lap time track for me, everybody else had to be a 2-minute lap time track. They may have to miss the whoop section or the tabletop, whatever. But that kept me pushing. It kept me driving. You know, and when I was thinking, like, there's John Italian from me, there's Doug Gustin from me, oh, there's Chad Weenan from me, where's Hedger from me? You know, those were my guys I was thinking that were in front of me. And we rolled our tails off. We didn't just half-ass practice. So same thing in a gym. When you're doing jump rope, you're doing stairs, you're running, you're biking, whatever you're doing. I mean, you don't have to run 10 miles. Who cares? I mean, Lance Armstrong ain't riding motocross to get in shape for his bicycle races, right? So, but run 2 miles as hard as you can. Ride your bicycle, mountain bike, as hard as you can for 5 miles. Whatever it is, do it with intensity. Know your heart rate, know your maximum heart rate, and stay in that zone at 85, 90% of that zone. Because that's what you're doing when you're racing. You're wide open for that gate drop.
What was your max heart rate?
Well, it depends on the age. I always try to stay in 190s, try not to get too far past 205, but I would try to keep that heart rate at 180 to 200. Okay, so if I'm at 140, I gotta. Now sometimes I'll be riding as hard as I can, and I'm still at 140, 150 because I'm so comfortable on the machine. I'd rather be 80% physically ready and 100% comfortable at a racetrack than 100% physically ready and 80% comfortable, because your mind is a wonderful thing. It plays tricks on you. Okay, I can go out there, if I'm comfortable and the bike's working, I can ride, all day long. But when I'm not comfortable and my head's playing games with me, I get tired real fast. So you want to be comfortable on a machine, and you want your heart rate 140, 150, maybe 160. That way you're not getting tired. But you got to train your heart rate. And what I would do, so when I was in my prime, I'd say 30 to probably 39 years old, I couldn't get my heart rate up riding no more. I was so physically fit, at 140s, 150 maybe. So what I would do, I'd go as hard as I could go with these guys for 30 minutes. Matter of fact, I split them up. Some of these guys would go the first 10 minutes with me, some go the second 10 minutes, some go the third 10 minutes with me, because they wasn't in my kind of shape. So I would do that, and then I would get off my quad and I just push my quad around the track. That got my heart rate up. I'm already tired, sweating, and I take my helmet and goggles off, and I'd start pushing the quad, my boots and everything, and I get it done. If that didn't do it, I'd run. So I would really, really push myself to get that heart rate up.
And how many days a week did you do that?
It depends on the time of the year, usually 4 or 5 days a week. So, if you're racing every other weekend, you come home Sunday, and Sunday was always my cheat day. And at that time, I wasn't a pilot. I didn't fly to all the races. I was driving. I was a truck driver. So that was my cheat day. So Sunday on the way home, I'd get whatever I wanted to eat. McDonald's, Burger King. I don't like that food, but whatever kind of junk I want to eat. And then I'd always, Monday was a clean day. Tuesday was stretching day, loosen my lactic acid's flowing. Wednesday we start riding again. So I'd ride Wednesday, Thursday, take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, take off Monday, Tuesday. So there's 5 days. Now, if we had 3 days or 3 weeks off for whatever reason, then you still do that 2-day split. And so you'd average out 4 days. It just depends on how it goes. And in the off season, it'd be 5 days, because you're not racing on the weekend. So I'd start right after Christmas. And I'd ride, 2 days on, a day off, as long as the weather worked out, and all the way till, I do that for 6 to 8 weeks. It takes 6 weeks to get in any kind of shape. So I always give myself 12 weeks to get kind of shape. And then I would start going down south or out to California, where I was going to get ready.
Okay, bad weather. What do you do?
Well, used to, bad weather, I'd just come in the gym. But when I started making a little money, I bought me a place down in Florida, and the bad weather kind of was eliminated, because you go down to Florida, and if it rained one day, well, you just wait till it stops raining. You go to the sand track. You know how sand track and water is. It's lovely. The track gets super rough, and my track in Florida was just sugar sand. I had to prep it every day when I got done. You had to get all the ruts up the jumps and everything. The ruts would get so deep, you're just dragging the sprockets and stuff. So when I was in Florida, and I was there for my last 10 years of racing, it was wonderful in the wintertime. So we got to ride pretty much. I mean, it might be a thunderstorm here or there, and then you just you do the inside stuff, and then you just double up the next day.
But okay, you can't get to the track. What do you do?
What I would do my cardio glide, and one of the best things I really like is my air dive. Okay, and I would do, and I can show you that air dive. It's actually, you can see it. I'm point right there. It's white. You can see that white machine over there.
Yep.
That was one of the best things that I could do to get my heart rate up. What I would do is I would do 60 RPMs for a minute. Hard, just I'm going 60. That's not real hard. Then I'd go 70 for a minute, and I'd go 80 for a minute. I'd do that for 30 minutes. So I'd go, medium, hard, holy crap, I can't really maintain this. Back down to medium, hard. I'd do that cycle all the way up down. My heart rate get over 200 on that third rep. I'd go back down, go back up. I'd do that for 30 minutes. I'd also do my cardio glide. I showed you that earlier, where you're kind of like doing whoops. You're doing like I have a rolling machine right here. I would do the rolling machine. Now, when you do these exercises, the cardio glide, whatever, I have thumb throttles on them, I have clutches on them, all this stuff. So, all those little machines you squeeze in football and all that stuff, they don't do that. That causes carpal tunnel. You're out there riding like you're going through whoops. You're pushing the thumb throttle. You're doing the clutch. You're doing all that stuff. When I get on the rolling machine, that's another really good exercise, because it's, it's non-impact. You don't do too much high-impact training, because when you ride your quad, you're high-impact training all the time. So you're just going to blow your joints out, right? So you want to do it and have your heart rate monitor and get that heart rate up to, most people's heart rate's 220 minus your age. So if you're 20 years old, 200 your maximum heart rate. You want to stay in that zone, at 89% zone. So you better be 185 to 200 for 20 minutes, however long you race.
Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, Score, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. We were talking about the training, the machines that you use. We have a little different background now. We have a national championship trophy and a championship ATV in the background. You'll get to see this on YouTube. It's pretty impressive when you get to see all of Joe's keepsakes and memorabilia from his time in the ATV industry. So if you get a chance to check this out on YouTube, you'll get to see a little bit of it. And you'll if you go on ATV Talk, he sent us quite a few photos that we've published. It's pretty impressive stuff. But back to our training, when you were talking about heart rate, I want to interject. I'm 54 years old, going to be 55. So you said I should make my max heart rate would be 200 minus my age.
It's 220 minus your age. Now that's a rule of thumb. Okay, so that's what they start with. And now if you're already like someone like me that's been an athlete my whole career for almost 40 years now, right? 30 plus, 35, 6 years, whatever it was. Mine will be a little bit higher. So you can go about 10% up. And someone like, no disrespect, but someone like you that's not been an athlete, okay, yours may be 220 minus your age because you don't want to have a heart attack because you haven't been training, right? So you have to adjust that per, 10% up or down the scale. Like my father, he's about to turn 70 this week. He's not going to be 220 minus his age because he's a couch potato, love him to death, and he just don't work out. So it's 10% down the scale on him, 10% up the scale on me because I've been an athlete my whole life. So it'd be, but for a rule of thumb, 220 minus your age, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Did you train with weights at all, or do you push away from the weights? I know I saw some in your gym. I was just wondering.
Well, now I'm doing weight. I've always loved lifting weights. I just, I grew up a skinny runt kid, so I always loved lifting the weights. And it helps you move the quad around a lot. But during the season, it's a no-no. Do not touch the weights. Most grown men are strong enough to handle the quad. Now, they have to have the endurance to do it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long they're racing. So weights during the season, for sure, no-no. And I wouldn't touch the weights for at least 2 months before the season. Only that as soon as you get on the off season, you can hit the weights, but not during the season. It's taboo.
Well, did you do much endurance racing by chance?
Well, I did cross country. I showed you my cross country bike. I did it for a couple of years. I've done the Baja 1000 a couple of times. I've done some enduros over in Europe. So, but that's not my forte. I did it for fun and just to do it. I did actually me, Doug Gus, and Mike Walsh won 12 Hours of America the first year that came out. So, yes, I had done several endurance races, but that's just not, it wasn't, didn't give me the scratch my itch, so to speak. I just love the motocross.
If you had to train for that, though, what do you think that you would change?
Well, how I actually did train, because, I had my own motocross track. And what I did, I incorporated my 75 acres. So I've got a little bit of woods area. So I would slow my pace down to 80%, and I would do our motos. I had to stop for fuel one time. My quad would only do 43 to 46 minutes before I needed fuel without putting a huge tank on it, right? And I put a little bit bigger tank. This quad right here has a slightly smaller tank that Scott Wright used to sponsor me with at IMS. So that was the tank I would use, and I would just ride and no about where I was about to run out of fuel, I stopped and I'd put fuel in it and I'd keep going. But I'd use the motocross track for my training. So.
And you'd use the motocross track and then an extra long loop for.
That's right. Cause I've got probably, gosh, it's 2 miles around the property. I would do probably a half mile, just wide open over the hill, turn, go through some woods, come back, hit the motocross track. So it was about I say 3 45-minute lap times, not quite 4 minutes.
And that's what you would do if you were going to do any endurance style racing.
Absolutely. Because, not too many people have a cross country track or, enduro tracks, and you can't hardly go ride some of these off-road parts. There's motocross tracks everywhere. So I even remember some of the guys that were racing the works. I know Hagleth and Barron and even Josh Creamer that one year when he won 2010, maybe 11, whatever he won. He got a ride. You probably remember him out there racing the Work Series. I would see him in Southern California, him and Corey Ellis riding Milestone and some of these tracks. He would be doing hour and a half motos on a motocross track. Now, obviously, pull back the pace just a smidge, but that's just the best place to train.
Yeah, but you think the motocross track? Milestone was kind of a mild form of motocross in my version, but I mean, not like some of the stuff that you guys rode on.
Yeah.
Where
right.
Some of the tracks where we train or that I've seen them train on out here or down here where I live, it's desert terrain. It's desert terrain, hard, rough, and you had to deal with rocks. It's just a totally different world, We never had super good. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. I don't know what happened. It turned on and off again. Just so anybody listening, we are having a little technical difficulty right now. We keep popping in and out. Valeria will do her best to make this an awesome episode, which she always does.
So you remember Don Jones, Clark Jones, no lane suspension. Brant Russell from Yoshimura allowed Doug Gus to go up there to the high desert in Victorville area, about past Atalanta, middle of nowhere. And Doug Gus built the track for Team Suzuki to train on. Well, when I was riding for Yoshimura, he allowed me to go up there when they wasn't there to train. And you want to talk about a great place to train for enduro. This was just a nasty, whooped out sand, like, you've been at Glamis, that the sand highway, whatever, that nasty whooped out area before you get to the Glamis store. That's what it was like all the way around this track. It was just nasty. That would be the best place if I lived on the West Coast to train.
Josh Rowe made a track down in Akatia. And I still go down there to test when I'm testing things, and it's brutal. I mean,
is that by where Scat Truck is?
No, we're a stone's throw away from the border at that point.
Oh, you're dumping down there. Yeah, where did it? Because I went Greg Stewart had a track out in the desert out there. It was
Upper California,
Cherry Valley or somewhere.
He's in Northern.
What's that?
He's in Northern California.
Well, you're talking. No, he's not in Northern California. He's in right there in
LA.
Well, not that north. It's San Clemente. No, not San Clemente. Cherry Valley, where it's close to there. What's that little town he lives in?
I don't even remember.
Gosh, it's right off the 10, I believe it is. So it's not northern. It's south of San Bernardino. I'll think of it in a minute.
I know where you're talking about, but it's similar desert terrain. I mean, that's all I've ever got to train in is desert terrain.
This desert, loose, sandy stuff. Yeah,
rocks.
Whenever we raced Glen Helen, all of our suspension testing and tuning went out the window. You go to Glen Helen, you got a whole different setup.
Oh yeah, course.
I would run dual rate springs at Glen Helen, 135 pounds. What my rate was on the front of my bike, and my back was stiffer than normal because the front you're just dancing across that stuff. You never have those G-forces. You just back that thing in all the turns, It was a totally different setup there than anywhere else. And I'll tell you something else that nobody knew. Go ahead.
No, you fire away.
We had a little secret with Penske, because we rode for Custom Access, and the first couple of years they blew give us all the bells and whistles. Right, you see some of these shocks here. They saying for $10,000 a shock, and we came out there. We rented Glen Helen on a Monday and Tuesday before one of the races, and we had beacons set around all the track, like 45 different beacons all around. So, and we had sensitive shocks that we could have. They were smart shocks, if you will. Okay. So before we went up Mount St. Helens, I'd lighten up my front end. And then when you went past that beacon, it changed the settings in the shocks, and kind of like Formula One stuff. And I'd be real light going up the front end. I come down it, my shock would stiffen up automatically. I'll go around this one turn, my right shock would stiffen up. So every beacon I'd hit, my shocks, we'd have to go test and what made that shock better in this particular application, whether it's hitting a tabletop or, we'd speed up the rebound coming out of this one turn, or we'd slow it down going down Mount St. Helens or whatever it was. And I did all my lap times before we started. And after we started, I was 4 seconds a lap faster with this setup on there. Of course, it's illegal. You can't have that. We couldn't have those shocks to race because there ain't any rules. But we got our best setting off those shocks, and I won the Glen Helen 2 years in a row.
Man, I didn't even know that. No. I didn't know that you guys did that.
No, nobody knows. We have so much technology in that shit. And that's where it was. I did a lot of work when I was factory Honda, because they allowed me to get whatever sponsors I wanted, as long as it was within, reason, if it's tasteful, I couldn't go get Playboy or Hustler or something. But they allowed me to do that. So I got to go outside the box and hire this mechanic or this shop tuner or this guy. And I got a lot of connections, and I hired the right guys, and it was a lot of work, but we hired the right guys, and we were competitive with the factory teams. And because Honda wasn't necessarily a factory team, they just give me a wad of money, a bunch of bikes and parts and bonuses, and here you go. They trusted in my, persnicketyness that I was going to do the right thing, hire the right people, because I wanted to win, whether I got paid nothing or, $500,000. I wanted to win. So we did a lot of cool stuff like that.
Did you feel that your effort was equal to the effort of Suzuki and Kawasaki?
Me as an individual, I put in way more work because they had a team. They had crew chiefs and truck drivers and mechanics and, all these guys that helped the team, but they spent more money than we did. Honda, we were spending about, I know they were putting $4 million in those programs, and we were spending between $325, $375. That's what we were spending. And of course, they would back me up on that, pay me for all that, but we were spending a lot of money. But when you're doing it yourself, you get all that money back. Well, they were just blowing money. I think they spent way too much on what they should have, but we did a lot of work, a lot of homework. And Honda, if they would have put the effort that Suzuki and Kawasaki and Can-Am did, we would have been unbeatable. But it was basically a well-funded privateer program because they didn't give me anything special. They didn't give me no special CDI boxes or carburetors or no fuel injections or nothing. It was all me going after the best. I was going after the Duncans and the Rolls and the best the sport had to offer without buying special stuff, because you remember Kawasaki didn't do nothing until they got those special ECUs from Japan. So, and same thing with Can-Am, they were slow as a turtle whenever they first came out. But when they started spending the money, getting all the special stuff nobody else could get, then they started stepping up. But Honda they had the best bikes out of the box, and they give me a lot of bikes and parts and money. I spend it on. I could probably put more money in my pocket, but I'd rather win. I wanted DAS to have. DAS made me. I don't know if you saw some of the special engines we had. We had how the Hondas the exhaust comes out at like a 35, 40 degree angle. We had one that came straight out. The exhaust came straight out the head, went out about 3 inches, turned and came straight back. That thing had 5 more horsepower over our production stuff. I got to race 2 races, and everybody pitched a fit, protested me. We had to take it off. That was, Dan just did all the extra work he could do to make me, because I'm a bigger guy, but that thing had some power.
Did that head go to Honda afterwards?
No, we kept it.
I was talking to a privateer mechanic that was working on a satellite deal with a Honda team in outdoor. And he said that the factory bike that was sitting 2 feet from him, and he's working on the privateer bike, and they were not the same.
No, yeah, for sure.
The
Now,
head,
Bruce Ogilvy saw it. He saw the engine and talked about it. Thought it was an amazing idea, but we wouldn't let him have it.
wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that Honda took any of the development that you went through and took any of it back at all to Japan
No.
to try to make a better
Well,
bike?
no, hold on. They did take some back, and they actually told me this was what year was this? They told me, God, maybe 11, maybe 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. They told me, Joe, you need to sell all your bikes. I'm like, what do you mean? You just sent me 20 bikes. Well, I mean, you know, as a matter of fact, on this floor up here, I've got tire marks where they sent me 25 bikes at one time. I try to figure out where to put them. So they said, you need to sell all your bikes. I'm like, well, why would I do that? You go, we got something new coming out. And if you don't sell your bikes now, they won't be worth nothing when this new one comes out. It was an R version. It was already wide. It was already lowered. It was already fuel injectors. And they took some of the stuff, not much, that we had developed at work, like the rear end, because Honda's rear end is garbage from the box. And the intake boot, was kind of garbage. So some of the things we changed, they did incorporate, but a lot of the stuff they did on their own. And I'd be darned, I sold like, I don't know, half a dozen bikes or something. And I kept waiting for this new bike. Nothing ever appeared. So they finally said, due to the United States economy fall, and the marketing analysis team says that we're not going to be able to come out with this unit because it was going to be about a $9,000 bike, and the economy can't support that right now. So they put it on hold, and it's still on hold.
And right now you can buy a brand new Yamaha for 10 grand.
Yep. If you can find one. We can't find one around here.
Yeah, you can't find them anywhere. You can't buy them in California, though.
Yeah, I called Donnie Luce because my schools are picking back up. I said, I'd like to, support you guys. I'm Honda through and through, but I can't get a new one. All my cool bikes I'm hanging up. I don't want to run them in the ground. I do have one school bike I still use. I said, but I'd like to work with you. He goes, man, Joe, I'd really love to give you one, but I don't have any. The PR department, the R&D, all this stuff that we don't have any. So he goes, and everyone that we're making a limited supply. They're all gone. They're going to the dealers, and most of them are gone fast. So,
yeah. I mean, I think Hetrick quit riding Hondas because he couldn't get new bikes.
Oh, absolutely. I don't blame him. As an athlete, when you go out and race, and you're practicing, racing is one thing, but when you go out and practice, you're practicing every day. You want to go out and know that spindle's not got 50 hours on it. That steering stem's not got 90 hours on it. This chain, you want a brand new bike. I would put anywhere from 12 to 15 hours on my practice bikes and get a new one. I'd put 2 to 3 races on my race bikes to get a new one. So I knew my spindles weren't going to break, my frame wasn't going to break, my subframe wasn't going to break. It was all new stuff. So, and there's no new Hondas. I mean, I got 1 or 2 here, but that's just here and there. That you can't go out and run a race team on trying to find good used Hondas. I mean, I love the Honda, but you can go out and buy a brand new Yamaha. That's the thing. If you're a professional athlete, that's what you need to be on, because you're not going to get hurt because it broke.
Wow, that's a powerful statement right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's why Hetrick did it. That's why most the Fords did it. The Hetrick did it, and a lot. Heck, I went to the first couple of races, and I think 90% of them are Yamahas online now.
Right.
Well, because you can get them, and if you're just riding amateur classes or something, you can build your hybrid, or you build your freshen up your Honda. That's fine, but you're going 4 laps. We'll ride more in 1 week than your amateur rides all year. So you don't want to be thinking about nothing but just ride, train, eat, sleep, ride, train. I'm being on the gas, not whether. If I hit this triple and I over jump this thing, I land too hard, that spindle break. You don't even think about getting hurt, because as a professional athlete, at least I did. I know that Tyler did, Gus did. We're bad dudes. Nobody's going to kick our ass. Nobody's going to beat us. That's I'm being funny, but that's how you have to think, or why you go to the start line. If you don't think you're the baddest dude out there, and you're just eating nails and piss and vinegar, you don't even line up on the start line. Why go? You need to think and so you don't need to be thinking about, I hope my quad don't break. That's something that's not even a thought in your head.
Right. I hear you. When you turned 40, did you revert to any cycle training or anything like that?
I've always done cycle training. I kept my training similar, but I would just take an extra day off to rest, and I would do more blood work to see if I'm overtraining. And let me get this number right. So when I'd wake up in the morning, I just grab my heart or look at if I had my watch on, look at my heart rate. And, if it was, my heart rate was normally anywhere from 38 to 45 resting heart rate. I had a really good low heart rate. And if you stand up and it automatically is getting out of bed, if it goes past, if you increase your heart rate past 16, so if it was, let's say I woke up and it was 40 and I stood up and it was 56, wait a minute, I'm overtraining. Or if it was 60, because you're already struggling, your lactic acid's built up, you're already tired. So if you wake up and your heart rate is 16 or more from resting, then you've overtrained. So those little things I'd really pay attention to. And I noticed it a whole lot more when I was over 40 than I was 25 to 35,
I want to clarify something that I am confused about. And I've talked to a lot of guys, okay, a lot of ladies too. Is riding your 100% main focus of training in motocross, woods, cross country, off-road, whatever it is? Do you think riding is the number one thing you should be doing?
For sure. That's the best way to get in shape, because you're actually riding. Running's good, bicycling's good, swimming's good, rowing's good, ellipticals are good, but all that stuff, you really got to push it to get that heart rate up. And you're not doing the exact same thing you are on a machine. And, little thing, this sounds funny, but little things like the side of your butt. Okay. When you hang off the side of that bike, that seat pan hurts your hip and your butt cheek over here. You can't get that calloused up riding a bicycle. You got to get on that quad and get that calloused up. You can't get your hands calloused up riding a bicycle or running or swimming or those little things. And when your hands start to hurt and you got a big old, blister that's ripped off, you're not going to go as fast. You just, it's just, I don't care how tough you are, just not. Your butt's got a blister on it. You got pimples on the side of it from all your infected hairs or whatever. You're just not going to go as fast. So riding gets a lot of things calloused up and in shape, and it gets your timing and you want to be one with the bike. Like when I was racing, my quad was just an extension of me. It was just my extra arm, my extra leg. It was, it was just second nature to me. I'd be out there riding hard as I could go, thinking about what my wife's cooking me for dinner, or what we're doing next week. Or I was so comfortable on the machine because I rode 5 days a week that there's no replacement for riding. I think Jeremiah Jones was one of the ones that I think all he did was ride. He rode, did very little cross training, and he was one of the baddest ones I ever rode for. So, but you can't always ride. You can't afford it. You're sore, you're tired, you don't feel like driving to the track, or you don't have your own track, or the bike's broke, or so you got.
You still there? Turn your volume back on.
You there?
Yep.
Okay.
Another little hiccup. Excuse the break. We'll plug a commercial in or something.
All right. Where was that? What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing you said was about making sure that you're riding. I want to ask you this question because nobody will ever talk about it. How good was Jeremiah?
I think he was one of the best guys that ride a four. And, I remember seeing him ride a Yamaha Warrior at some of the indoor races back in the 90s whenever I first met him. He was squirrely as hell, pinball all over the thing, kind of like Hetrick was when he first started. Just, you're like waiting for him to crash, but he never would, Good family, great guy. He got so squirrely, I would be scared to ride beside him until he got his feet, got his feet planted. Then he was dangerous. He was so fast. He could corner like nobody, and it just didn't seem like he hardly ever got tired. I mean, the little guy would just ride. And, we always made fun of him because he took longer to get his driver's license than most because he was always riding. He never had a girlfriend. So I think all of us guys were like trying to find girls to send to him to lose his focus and everything. Like, go mess with him, get his mind all messed up, But he was as good as it gets. I mean, it's hard to beat. He was most of the time faster than I was, and most everybody. I just had my conditioning on par, and so did Doug Gus. But he would make a Fuller look like he's going twice as fast as it was. Like I'd watch him and Doug Gus practice or racing together. He's all over the track and just one wheel here, and then Doug's right behind it, like staying the same speed. It was just, he was fun to watch. He was really fun to watch ride, because you're like, he ride by himself. He's entertaining to watch.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was good. He was good.
You're the first person to really answer that question that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a statement coming from you to the high praise. Anybody else that you raced with that you just were impressed with?
Travis Spader's another guy that he had the, and I'd watch him, especially a sand track like Macon, Georgia, or Edge County. I'd watch him, and he just had the most unique lines. He would come out wide, square off the turn, and everybody else was in the train tracks, slot car races, so to speak, in a sand track. He'd go out wide and cross them. I'm like, what the hell? I'm watching this guy do this. I'm like, that's cool. And so I'd start watching him ride, and he had some of the coolest, smartest lines out there. He's a real methodical racer. He's really smart about what he was doing. So he was always impressive to watch. And, Natali was always a wild man. And he was always he was another pinball until he got his feet wet. But those couple of guys there were really impressive to watch. I always would like, especially when they run like the 2 classes or something, I'd always go watch them ride and see what lines they were taking and see if it was faster. They never would follow nobody. They'd always take different lines. And that's how you learn. I'd watch, Travis take, especially when he's running that open class, I think for you guys, he would take this bench and go way out here across the damn track. I'm like, where's he going? And he just made lines work, and then he was one of the first guys, he and I think Greg Stewart, and who's the other one? I taught Jeremy Lawson about how to soak up the jumps like Bubba Stewart, the Bubba Scrub, on the quad, and just had just a natural ability. And Travis was like the perfect size. I'm too big to be riding a quad, really, but Travis was 5'9", 5'10", whatever he is, and 175, 80 pounds, and like Doug Gus is, and even a tally, but just the right size to really make that quad work. It was pretty impressive when Travis was on. Sometimes Travis was a light switch, but when Travis was on, he was fun to watch.
I've had the pleasure of getting to watch a lot of you guys ride, and I can't wait to get back east so that I can watch some of the young guys I've talked to ride and see. I'm pretty impressed with Ford. That kid is.
I worked with those guys 3 years ago, and the boys got, and I talked to him here the other day when I went to the race. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of speed, and I haven't rode his quad. I rode his 3 years ago. I rode his Honda, but I haven't rode his quad to see if he can improve there. But there's a lot of guys out there that have speed. You watch the time qualifier, man. There's 10 of them within a few seconds of each other. Hedrick's always got on his own, but I think him being a little bit nervous, his conditioning's not there yet, and I think his riding conditioning's not there. And I don't know if it's him mentally not wanting to push himself, or maybe he's don't have nobody fast to practice with at home. I don't know. I don't know his program right now. I'm not in that program, but he's got to get his second half of his motor. His first 10 minutes is badass. I watched him at Texas. He was pushing. He was right in front of Wayne. He was pushing Hedrick. I'm like, man, he's going to be. I even texted him and said, I thought you were going to pass him. And the second half, he got tired. It looks like he started making mistakes. He gets tired. And when you get tired, you make mistakes. But I think if he had somebody like me or whoever, Natalia or somebody, coach him on his second half of his racing, he could be a threat to win. I really think he's got the speed to win. I don't think his head game and his second half of his motor is quite there yet, but he's going to be another one to recommend for real soon.
You think it's youth?
Yeah, I say this funny, but he don't have his man muscles yet. You know what I mean? He just turned 19, I think, yesterday or day before, if I remember correctly. So he's still young, but still, it's 19, ain't a kid no more. He's almost an adult. But I think his man muscles and he's got to get a little bit more a better head about him, because he's making a lot of mistakes. He's blowing the turns. He's going out wide. He's not taking the right lines. He's just all over the place. Kind of like Jeremiah Jones used to be, and Hedrick used to be, and a lot of guys when they first get in the pro class, they want to set the world on fire. And they're pinballing it. They're bouncing off the walls, and sometimes they crash. So once he calms down and he gets his second half of his moto program dialed in, I think he'll be on the podium, top of the podium.
Have you been approached by any teams to come and work with their riders? I know that you've done it with somebody some guys in the past, but has anybody came to you and asked you to be the what do you call it, the rider manager?
Yeah, rider coach, whatever. A few guys have talked to me, but they haven't actually shown me any money. So, at this point, I mean, I've got so much to give a team or a program with my knowledge and how to set up a bike and race savvy and lines and training. I can't do it for free, and a lot of these guys, I don't know if they just don't want to spend the money or what, but it's mainly about the money. They just, I'm not going to do it for free.
I've always been reluctant to say this, but I did it for a lot of years for free.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going to do it for free anymore.
Well, and I've had my riding team, and then the riding team I taught all those guys for free. I don't know if you remember the Byrd training facility. I've got a logo at. I've got it somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyways, so my little dirty bird, a little tough little Byrd guy. I had that for really wide open for 3 or 4 years, and 75% of people came through. I did for free because I was trying to get it out there and train all these guys. I used to have 15 teenagers live here in the big shop over there with, had RVs in there, I had beds in there, I had computers in there, I had cots, I had all this stuff in there, and I trained all these guys for free just to build it up and help the people that couldn't afford it. And here recently, I've still done some guys for free, but it's like, man, when times get tough, like when I had a plane stolen from me a couple years ago. Nobody was there helping me deal with that. So I need money like anybody else, So,
right.
I have so much to offer a young team and riders, just unlimited knowledge there. I've been doing this since the day folders came out. And I think I have the championships to back it up, and the knowledge and the training and everything. And I think we've won 46 or 7 championships between all my team and people I've that's ridden for me. And I think that's pretty good. So I'd love to help some of these teams out, and love to help, some of these young pros out that, there's half a dozen out there that really could use my help, because they're good, but they're not great. They need to get that next level up, and they're just not going anywhere because they're happy where they're at,
You think that's why Chad's been so dominant over the last few years, is because he did elevate his game and nobody else did?
Yes. And Chad, I've raced with Chad. I raced with Joel. I raced with Joel for several years before I retired. And, I've raced with every national champion since Rodney Gentry back when it started, even Joel and Chad. And, whenever the money was really big and it was really, great, Joel and Chad were, they weren't dominant, and I wasn't dominant. There was a lot of guys there's 10 guys that could win the race. So what happened was Chad maintained his focus. He was, the dude's won several championships, and all the good guys had to quit for whatever reason. Most of the sponsors dropped out, and Chad was a champion at the time, and he kept his sponsors, and he maintained that winning attitude. He's got a winning attitude. He's got a great program. He's a hell of a rider, and he's as good as it gets, and now Joel stepped up, and he's got a great program. He's got a eye of the tiger attitude as well. So that's why they're winning. And the other guys just don't have that yet.
You think most of those guys are young, Max Lindquist, he's first time pro, Bryce Ford, he's second year pro, I think.
Yeah. The sophomore year.
Yeah. And his brother's a third or fourth year pro.
Yep.
Some of the other guys are first year pros as well. And there's a couple sophomore pros in there. So your pro class is pretty stacked with a lot of young guys.
Yeah, it looks like, and I no disrespect to the young guys out there, but when you go watch a race, it looks like Joel and Chad are racing a pro-am class. And that's basically what, over the last 2 or 3 years, all the pros had to quit for whatever reason, losing their sponsors or whatever. And all the pro-am guys are now pros. And Joel and Chad are just in a league of their own. You got, like you said, you got Ford that can run. Actually, there's several guys that can run that speed. Ford's just the top of the list. But when that second half of the moto comes, Joel and Chad just check out. They can run that whole pace the whole time. Matter of fact, Curtis Sparks told me this 30 years ago. He said, Joe, you ought to be running your last lap faster than your first lap. I was like, man, well, you said you shouldn't get tired. You're a professional athlete. You need to learn how to train, and the track better that last lap, so you'll be able to go faster the last lap than your first lap. And I kept that in my back of my mind all these years. And I always, when I practice in my racing, I want to make sure that last lap was just as fast or faster than that first lap, because you do know the track better, and conditioning shouldn't be a problem. You don't win the race on Saturday. You win it the week before training.
Yep. You know, your little buddy when he would race works, at the end of the race, he was always faster. You know, Eichner could always pull off faster laps at the end of a works race than he did in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a bad dude. I mean, I know I listened to his
I don't think his training program was ever as intense as yours, but the guy just had heart. I mean, his genetics were he just never ran out of energy.
Yeah.
You know? It's crazy. I am a late blossom during the moto. Like, it's going to take me 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get warm. And then, okay, let's do this. But the race is already over. You know, so in the desert, when I was racing desert, that first ride was horrible. You had to force yourself through it, force yourself through some of the aches and pains that I would have. But that third ride, I was good to go, you know?
Yeah. Well, you warmed up.
Oh yeah, it was fluent. It was just the bike would flow. It was always awesome. I always loved that third ride.
Yeah.
So not you know, I guess I didn't know enough about warming my body up or stretching properly. You know, and I didn't train right. I train harder now in my 50s than I ever did when I was younger to race quads. So I know I was never at a level like you were at all, not even close. But you know, in my own little guppy pond, I was a hero. Aren't we all, right?
Right.
So what would be the biggest thing that, okay, you're taking on my team and we're rolling out these 3 young pros, and what are we going to focus on first?
Well, first thing you do, obviously the machine's got to be set up right. You guys, Lenny, you know how to do that. But they need to know how to, you know, you watch that old show, Days of Thunder. They got to tell you what's wrong with that machine or what it's doing that they don't like. And they don't have to tell you nothing technical. Hey, it's kicking me in the butt over here. Okay, where? So the machine's got to work. Okay. Then they got to make sure they're in shape. Don't even go to the racetrack if you're not physically fit. That's the cheapest thing in ATV racing, is to get in shape. You don't have to have a gym. I got a nice gym down here, sure, but you can run. If you got a bicycle, you can swim, you can do jump rope, you can play tennis, you can do sprints, you can take your folder and push up down a driveway like I do, you can push it around a track, all kinds of stuff you can do. You don't have to have a gym membership. You can do it out in your backyard, okay? But when you exercise with intensity. So that's 2 things. The machine's got to be ready, and they've got to be physically fit. The third thing, make sure they're focused. Make sure they're not chasing women out at night till 3 o'clock in the morning, eating McDonald's cheeseburgers and coming back in, and, you know, no, you go to bed at 10 o'clock, you get up at 7 o'clock, whatever that 8-9 hours sleep you need. Focus. If you're not focused, you're not in shape, and you don't want to learn how to get this bike dialed in, you ain't for me.
You brought up a good point there. Sleep. As you got older, or as I get older, sleep is an issue.
Yeah.
Falling asleep and staying asleep. As your athletic program developed, did you start having problems with the rest time? Because we recover best when we're sleeping. Did you ever have any trouble with that?
I never had much of a problem falling asleep initially, but staying asleep all night. Oh yeah. And a couple reasons. One, you get older, you hurt more, and all the injuries you had, and 2, you're sore. So even if you don't have any injuries, you're sore. Your lats are sore, your forearms are sore, your butt's sore, your neck's sore from landing so hard. So you toss and turn all night trying to get comfortable. So, you know, as an athlete, man, for the last 30 years, I ain't slept on a damn. So, you know, I can fall asleep, but staying asleep, I'll get up at least 1 to 3 times a night, you know, just to stretch or go to the bathroom or whatever, just because I'm, you know, not so much now that I'm retired, it's a little better, but I was always sore. And if you're not sore, you're not training hard enough, you know? So yeah, staying asleep. And that's the part where you really need to get your blood checked. Make sure you're taking the right, whatever it may be. You may be low on magnesium, low on zinc, or you're too high in iron. You need to, you know, I donate my blood every 7 weeks and I got high iron. So learning your body, because your body tells you, this is why I'm not sleeping. I'm either sore, I got my blood pressure too high, my blood's too thick, or it's I got too much lactic acid built up. I need to eat more pineapple, whatever it may be. Your blood will tell you what you need to be doing.
That's pretty good. You brought that blood thing up 5 or 6 times now. I think that I'm going to become an avid believer in that and do some testing on my own to see what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's good to donate too. The last probably 2 years, they say donate every 7 or 8 weeks. I've done it every month. I'll take 32, 40 ounces of blood out, and it thins your blood. Obviously, the thinner your blood, less likely for a heart attack. It lowers your iron. I got high iron, so lowers a lot of health risk when you donate your blood, and you're making your body rejuvenate and put fresh blood in there. I'm a firm believer in donating blood and putting fresh blood in your body. That's and some of these, of course, it's illegal, ain't they racing, but like Lance Armstrong, all these guys, they would take their blood out, spin it, put all the good stuff back in their body. It's like putting yourself on steroids. I mean, that's totally legal and healthy to do in some sports, but not our sport. And I'm totally believe in spinning your blood and putting all the good stuff back in you.
So it is illegal in ATV racing to do that?
Yeah. You can't even give yourself an IV between motos. Of course, I've done it. A lot of people have done it, trying to get you, not be so dehydrated, but yeah.
Wow. I didn't know. I that's something I didn't know. I learned something new.
Yep.
And that's all because of the AMA coming in and being overbearing.
Yeah, and they're all overbearing, but it also, to their defense, some of it's is an expense thing. If it makes stuff that's expensive that only certain people can do, that makes it an advantage for the people, well, let's just ban it so not anybody can do it. So if it was cheap and easy, then it'd probably make it legal, but it's not real cheap and easy to do. So they would ban certain things, so it keeps the sport more fair.
Do you think that anybody in our sport used performance enhancing drugs?
For sure.
You say that straight face. You didn't even hesitate. Wow.
Absolutely.
Do you know this firsthand, or is it just
know it, seen it? Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Do you think it makes that big of a difference?
Not as much as people think it does. Nope.
Not
because here's the thing. How many other sports out there have arm pump? You get arm pump in football, you get arm pump in cycling, you get arm pump in swimming. No. Most of your performance enhancing drugs to some degree will cause an arm pump, because it's most of the time it's giving you more strength, it's putting more adrenaline in you, it's making your blood heart race more, little stuff like take Adderall. Your heart's going to race more. When your heart races more, what's going to happen? More blood's going to go into your arms. So how arm pump works, you got these big old veins that come in your arm right here, right? And it fills up your arm, and the little spider veins that you can't really see, that's where the blood escapes. Well, when your spider veins are holding more blood than the big veins are accepting into your arm, your blood is not going anywhere. That's why you have this rock hard arm. You can't really move. You're grabbing your grips like a retard, and so that's what causes arm pump. And most your performance enhancing drugs will do that.
So, what are these surgeries that these guys are doing to prevent arm pump?
They're cutting this muscle open, and I'm not a doctor, don't quote me here, but they're lancing this muscle open to allow more blood to flow in and out of that muscle.
Really? Does it work?
And it only works on, I think it's like a 30 or 40% positive rate of surgery. It's more negative than it don't. When people get it, more than half the people it doesn't help.
Yeah, because I watched MotoGP and MotoGP, and those guys, almost all of them get the surgery. And these guys,
well, you remember
go ahead.
You remember Jeremy Warner? He got it. He said it helped him tremendously.
Yeah, well, a lot of more Europeans do it than Americans that I'm aware of.
And probably because maybe they know how to do it better over there than over here. It's more, they're just used to doing it more. So maybe their doctors are doing it the right way, and the ones over here maybe not. Maybe that's why it's such a low positive rate over here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Is surgeries like that illegal, or?
No, it's legal to do. It's just expensive. I actually entertained it, but I just said, you know what? I'm just going to ride harder. I'm going to eat cleaner and try to ride harder. And my arm pump for me was a lot of mental. So my first 3 laps, I'd have my mechanic put relax, wiggle your fingers off the jumps, and take deep breaths. And once I got comfortable after about 3rd lap, I'm game on in. I wouldn't get arm pump more. my arm pump would always come the first 2 or 3 laps.
I think that you're right. Arm pump starts from lack of breathing properly in the beginning of the moto
Yep.
to holding on too tight because you're excited.
Yeah.
And if you just go out there and relax and ride, this is a funny phrase that I give to a lot of the guys. Hey, just go trail ride with those guys.
Yeah.
When you're trail riding with them, you're bumping each other, you're dicing in and out, you're having a great time. Do you ever get tired? Oh, no, never. And you're going the same speed, if not faster, because you're relaxed and you're having fun.
That's the 33.3% minute I was telling you about. I'd rather be 100% mentally ready, confident in everything, and go out and ride versus being not mentally ready, because that mentality, that's where I would get my arm pump. I'd get more arm pump my time qualifiers than I would the race. So you got to, breathing means you're breathing, but you're not breathing properly. So when he would tell me to breathe on the pit board, it meant when I hit a big jump, I take a real deep breath. When I'm on a straightaway that's not taking much strength, I take a real deep breath. Every jump I would hit, I would wiggle my fingers like this, take a deep breath and land and go. So those little things. And after I got the race going, I would, normally the second half of the moto would never get arm pump. It's the first lap or two.
Right. And then it takes 3/4 of the moto to work that out so that you can hold on and ride.
Until you learn how to work it, your average person, when they get arm pump, they're done. They can't come out of it. So it takes some mental training and preparation to learn how to come out of that, for sure. And that's hard to teach.
Oh, I totally believe that. In the little bit of training that I do, the beginning of the exercise or the session is always the hardest for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, and it's breathing related mostly is what I'm figuring out, because I'm not breathing properly. I'm holding my breath when I'm starting to lift, and that creates the negative. And then once you start breathing right and start flowing, everything relaxes and it's just a better train.
Try to get you some oxygen and start breathing that 2 hours before you race. It's saturating your system, and that'll help too.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's forcing it in you. I would do that too.
Wow. That I didn't know. I had heard some portions of that. They used to sell a oxygen bottle. They probably still do, a little portable oxygen deal that you could take, and it was for athletes.
Yep. Yeah, we have that in our airplanes and aviation stuff too.
Yeah, cycling for the cyclists, they would do all that stuff.
Yep.
That's where I learned that the breathing for me, I was doing it wrong, because when I would go race the bicycle every once in a while, I would see these guys for an hour before the bicycle race riding back and forth. And some guys were just killing it. And I'm like, what are you doing? You got to go race in a few minutes. And then you would watch this guy perform and you go, okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah. You got to warm up now.
And then I would warm up more and more, and I would start performing better. Never like any of those guys. I mean, cyclists.
Well, yeah, remember you just said your third ride when you was doing the desert stuff, you felt better. So we would start. I used to go run through the pits or get on my bicycle, whatever, in the rig and get warmed up. Not tired, not get heart rate that up, but you get your heart rate at 120 or whatever, and get your blood flowing, because that cold blood, and you don't want to stretch cold muscles, so you don't want to go on that track or do any kind of stretching until you're warmed up. So all these people that try to stretch before they warm up, that's just going backwards. You need to do some jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, do a little light jog or something, then do your stretching.
Really?
Yeah, don't stretch cold muscles. That goes, you don't want to never hurt yourself.
We play catch. Coach throws the football, so we do pass patterns before we work out. And I love that, because if you get 15, 20 minutes of that before you go do your normal system, I'm warm, relaxed, and ready to go. And
right.
Most of my aches and pains are not as bad at that point,
Right.
Everybody, you got to make it fun. At almost 55 years old, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it.
You got to make it fun. I don't care what you're doing. It's got to be fun. And that's why I still do my riding school. I love riding. I never got tired of riding. The business side of it, that always, like any other business, that gets tiring. But when the money fell out of it, I'm like, okay, I used to make well into the 6 figures doing this. Now I got to pay to do it. I can stay home, ride my own track, do that. And I just got the dozer right here the other day. I've totally redone my track and made it a little bit safer for easier for me and funner for the riding school. So I still ride to this day.
That's awesome. I don't get to ride. I get to test every once in a while, do some stuff like that for the shop, but I don't get to ride like I would like to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never a go on a long trail ride, or I was never a huge super dune fan. I like to go ride, either off-road tracks or motocross. I'm not a huge motocross fan, but that's
you know what you can do? I'll tell you what would be fun. You ought to try your best to come to Loretta Lynn's this year. I'm going to have a riding school the weekend before. I'm going to have group lessons, and I'm going to have open practice here at my track Monday and Tuesday. So get your butt out here. We'll ride together, have some fun, go to Loretta Lynn's and watch the race.
What weekend is that?
You
can text me later. You can text me later.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's 9th and 10th. So I think Loretta's 15th or 16th or something of August, something like that. But that way you're doing some teaching and stuff now. You can learn a little bit about, the things I do in teaching and, help your, your skill level and how to, because, I taught for about 6 or 7 years before I learned how to teach, and I've been doing it for, since 93. So that's 30 years ago, whatever I started. So it takes a while to learn how to read people and how to teach. And I can see what somebody's doing right or wrong and know how to explain it differently than just say, watch me do this. So, and a lot of things we go over, if you're going to be, working with people and getting these private lessons in, learn, spend some time and learn to be a better instructor,
And I think that's hugely important. I think one of the best things that I've learned being in the position that I'm in is talking with people. I always tell the customer, I don't want you to talk my language. I want you to talk your language. Let me decipher it. Let me figure out what you're saying. And then it's going to be an easier conversation for you. Same with a lot of riders. Hey, Days of Thunder. If as much as you want to make it a joke and you want to laugh about it, when you're talking to them, you make it simple for the rider to explain to you what's going on so that you can solve their issue. Whether it's wrong, right terminology, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he was sitting there on the stool talking to the car in the movie, that's real.
It sure is. It's funny. A lot of guys don't even know what we're talking about.
People, my dad gets it. My brother, Lauren, doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Because he just was never into it like that.
Yeah.
I freaking talk to every one of my girls.
Yeah.
When I'm putting them together, I'm talking to them. And the ones that go together hard, there's a reason. They don't like the way you're putting it together. So you have to start over. You take it apart and try again and work with her. And, people are probably thinking I'm a nutball right now, but it's true.
Hey, we're both nutballs. We're in ATV racing, right?
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, that just summed it up.
Well, yeah, you should come out now. I'll try to work with you and making you're never too good to learn. And I've been doing this for a long time, man. So hopefully I can teach you something to make you a better instructor as well. And you'll have some fun and get to ride and go to the race.
Well,
I can take you for a plane ride.
Do you have a peewee? Do you have a peewee track?
I'll make you one.
Okay, I need a peewee track. Little
matter of fact, one of my big nasty King Kong doubles I had, I mowed it down and made a little bit tabletop out of it for the little 90 riders that come to the school. So,
well, that's probably a little big for me.
So yeah, so we'll go.
I raced desert and off road. We only raced motocross because you had to at some point because that was all that was available in small spurts.
Yeah.
And
so we'll get you out here, get you some seat time in. We'll get you some lessons in. We'll fly to dinner somewhere and we'll go to the race. We'll buzz the red lands and say hi to everybody. Throw some water balloons out the window or something.
Well, you text me the dates and I'll see if I can get there.
All right.
Because it's just, you would not believe how crazy the industry is right now. We are back to, okay. I want to get your input on this. Okay. Honda's starting to stop making parts for the 0405 TRX 450R. Some parts for the 14 or the 06 ups are starting to be scarce. A portion of this is COVID. A portion of this is, my opinion, Honda's getting ready to do something.
Well, and they only have to do it, 20 years, 18 or 20 years, they have to make parts for it. So they're,
10.
is it 10? Well, they changed it. It
Yeah,
wasn't 10 before.
Support it for 10 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I don't know, they got it, but it's just a matter of when they're going to release it. I don't know, with this new administration in place, if they're going to take the gamble right now with everything going up, with price of woods 5 times more than it was last year, and the fuel's almost double. So I don't know if they're going to come out yet with it. But
do you see what some of the prices of some of the quads are going for right now?
Yeah, it's crazy,
dude. A Lobo that Eichner's got a Lobo, and I've had it tentatively on the market, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And now you see guys with nice machines, but I don't think they're that nice compared to the Eichner's, asking the same price or more.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
yeah, I know that some of this 250R stuff is going through the roof. That one red bike I got out there, the red 88, somebody offered me $8,000 for the plastic, just the plastic.
Yeah.
Crazy.
A few years ago, I think I told you this. A few years ago, they found an 89 in a crate at a Honda dealer, and it was for $10,000.
Oh yeah, it'd go for more than that now.
Oh, totally. It'd probably go close to me.
It'd probably go 25, 30. If they're offering me 8,000 just for the fenders.
Yeah, because you can't buy factory fenders. You can't find any good stuff.
Nope. So, all right.
I just see. I see the industry needs an injection of something, and I always tease. I'm not a huge KTM fan, but now that KTM owns Husky and Gas, why don't they just make a real quad instead of what they did before, and label it with all 3 of them, because that's what they do with the motorcycle. And dude, now we have 3 factories out there racing the quads besides Yamaha, and that'll force Honda and maybe Kawasaki to come back and do something.
Yeah, until somebody else comes back out with a nice machine, or we get back on TV, Honda's like, they're backs to us.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that they would do that. I think that, the ATV industry, if you look at the sales numbers, and I don't remember who told me this or where I got the information, but the ATV industry carried the motorcycle, the off-road portion, for 12, 15 years.
Oh yeah. The 250Rs, I know the 4 years they made a 250R, they had more sales in those 4 years than the past 20 years on the dirt bikes combined.
Yeah. And then they turn their back on the ATV people.
I don't get it.
Well, we never will. And there's some guy with a pencil pushing numbers that has no clue or concept what's going on out there. Making decisions.
Yeah, they sold every one of them. How can they not want to do more? They sold every one of them. But the problem with most of you guys, I know Honda, they got too many older guys running the departments, and not the new young blood that wants to see racing flourish again.
Well, yeah, and then the people they did hire, I don't think were the right people for.
No, sure. A couple of guys that signed my last couple of contracts, oh boy, they were not ATV lovers for sure.
Yeah, and but they didn't understand it either.
Nope, didn't understand it.
Bruce,
I think we're a bunch of redneck mud pit flyers or something. I don't know what they think.
We miss Bruce, man. We miss Bruce.
Bruce was the guy. Yeah. Yeah, it's a damn shame he passed away. He was way too young, but he was the guy. He had a weird personality, but he was definitely in our corner.
I had never been introduced to him, and we were at Glen Helen. It had to have been 04. It had to have been 04 when the 04 Honda just came out. And I knew who he was, but I had never been introduced to him. And I had walked up to him and introduced myself. And he goes, "Yeah, I know who you are." And he goes, "What do you need?" And I told him what I had needed. And he goes, "Come with me." And he took me in his box van, handed me the new part that I needed that you couldn't buy. And said, "Hey, there you go." And I go, "What do I owe you?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it." He says, "Good luck, man."
Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
And he
was a good guy. Yeah, I've known him for several years, and I was actually at his house when he done lost his foot. He's done, his cancer was eating him up, and I spent the time, personal time with him, not, at his house and mowing his yard and all kinds of stuff. Just a darn shame we lost him. We probably have another bike up now if he was up to him.
Yep. I totally agree with that. I mean, for a guy like that to know who I was blown away.
Yeah.
I'm nobody.
He was a smart guy.
Oh yeah. And
he had an ethics to him. He always told me, he said, Joe, he said, we were always taught at Honda, you called everybody back. Somebody leaves you a message, you call them back that same day, or at least leave them a message. You always respond to somebody when they communicate with you and return that phone call. And he showed me the proper way to hand a business card to somebody, proper handshake. I had to tuck my shirt in. He was a professional. He was a really prompt dude.
That's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Wayne Hinson called me one time, and some Japanese guys were coming down to see us from one of the factories. And he said, okay, here's the thing. When they get there, they're going to give you a business card. You would better be ready and give them one back.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't care what it says on it because they can't read it. But you better be giving them a business card.
Yep.
And I mean, he called me personally and told me this. And I was like, wow, okay. I'm just a green young kid. I didn't know nothing. And,
they should just have a different culture way of doing things, And Bruce, I don't know if you know this or not, but Bruce sent me an extra folder one time. He said, build this out like your race bike, at least a production version of it. And we're sending it to Japan. So I have one of my production copies of my race bikes in the Honda Museum over in Japan right now.
That's so cool.
It's all because of Bruce. I can't wait to go see it one day.
Oh, that would be so awesome,
Yep.
Ah, man. The history that these young kids and most people don't know.
Yeah.
And that comes out why I'm here, why I'm trying to do this. Is because I want to get the history out there. I want to get people to know the story, I mean,
there's a lot of stories. Like I said, I've been racing four-wheelers since I started racing four-wheelers. I was racing three-wheelers before that.
I mean,
I've been doing it a long time. I've met a lot of good people.
Dude, I remember going to the races with the 9110 days.
Yeah.
Speedway 117 out here in Southern California. And, Ace Williams and, there's just so many other guys that Marty got his start out here.
Yeah.
Mike Coe. Jim Babbitt. There's just so many guys. I'm missing so many names.
Yeah, Sundahl and all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Dean. Gosh, how do you not talk about Dean? That guy was a pioneer.
Yeah.
It's just
good stuff.
Unbelievable, brother. Yep. I want to thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
I always enjoy it. Your episodes on ATV Talk do really well. I get a lot of private feedback from people.
Oh, good.
That really enjoy them. And they always want more. And I'm always wanting to do more with you. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to put this out on the air so that it's in the tape. I want to talk to you and John Natale and Shane Hitt all at the same time.
Oh, that'd be fun. You'll be do a lot of shit talking on that one.
I can get Shane and I can get you. I can't get John.
Really?
Yep.
I could probably get. Matter of fact, Cody Jansen asked me one time the same thing, and I called John. I said, "You want to do this with me?" And I called him. I called him a couple of curse words, and he said, "I'll do it." I said, "By God, you better do it." He goes, "I'll do it if you do it." I said, "Well, let's do it." So we're supposed to do one, and I'm sure we'll do one with you too. I can get him.
Well, you get him, and it's a moment's notice. I'll be freaking hooking it up.
All right.
Because Shane is always a shit talker. Language. Oh, he ain't changed a bit.
No, he's so funny.
You don't look no different.
No,
and still talks the same too.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty amazing. I'm old and gray and broken, and some of you guys just look the same.
Well, some of them do. I gotta get a little heavier, but yeah, it's some of them do. They've aged well.
Joe, you're a big guy, so you are going to change. When you were racing, you were super thin. You had to be that way to even compete with those because of your size.
And I'm still too heavy. I was always 205 or 10 pounds at my lightest.
Right.
So that was my height. I was too skinny, but for racing, I had to be that way. So, and that goes back to this whole episode of training. You gotta you got to learn what to eat. You know, you got to eat a lot of chicken and load up on pasta before the race, and stay away from red meats and salts and sugars, and no energy drinks. And, you know, it's a lot of water. And you know, there is some like Cytomax cyclist drinks that work pretty good. But, you know, I drink Pyrate Zero, or sometimes Gatorade Zero, and I drink that Cytomax a lot, and a lot of water. Stay away from anything fermented, pickles and beer and anything like that causes arm pump. So there's a lot that goes into training, and you need to learn your body, get that blood work done, and eat. You know, you're gonna eat a lot of chicken, a lot of grilled chicken. That's for dang sure.
You just brought something else up. Do you see the young guys drinking energy drinks? I do.
Yes. Yep, and that's terrible for you. You know, they're putting all this money in their machines and race gas and their race bikes, and they're putting, you know, 87 octane in their bellies. You know, all those junky ass energy drinks, garbage. It's just garbage.
What do you think it does to their blood?
Well, it spikes it. It's just sugar. I mean, it's just spiking it. It's causing arm pump. It's causing anxiety, and they're getting that. They're hitting the revenue number, ding, 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 ding. You know, and so it's just a negative effect.
Yeah, I can attest to that, because I've drank a few energy drinks in my day.
Well, now everybody has, but it's not good for racing, not good for your system. It's just putting junk in your body. Definitely don't need to drink that stuff. You know, if you need to feel that, I mean, you'd be better off eat a spoonful of sugar than that mess, all that taurine and all that mess they got in those energy drinks. Most of all these guys at Supercross, they ain't drinking that drink whenever they're on the podium. They got water in those things.
Yep. Well, did you know? Well, you probably do know this. Monster and Red Bull and all of them have water. They make the sealed cans. So when you see them pop a Red Bull, it's water inside for the athletes. You know, I
it's
know
all about the money. Yeah, that's just stuff. You know, you got to take care of your body, man. That's the number one thing. These young ones, they want to eat McDonald's or, you know, all this extra bread. You don't need all this bread in your system, all this red meat and pizza and, you know, chicken nuggets and all this stuff.
Pizza,
you know,
we can't have pizza?
Well, not as an athlete, you can have it. That's your Sunday cheat on the way home.
Come on now, dude. I love
pizza. You and I can have pizza, but we ain't athletes no more.
All right. Well, don't tell my wife that I can have pizza, because she's got me on the
pizza and beer. Pizza and beer is a good combination for you.
I can't drink. I
don't drink beer at all. I hate beer.
I haven't had any alcohol in 22 years.
Oh, wow. I'm hoping I can say that here soon.
Well, I crashed on a motorcycle Super Bowl weekend in 99.
Oh, geez.
And got a super bad concussion, you know, been to the neurologist, and the residual, the thing that I know of is I have an intolerance for alcohol. When I drink alcohol, I get like a migraine, and I get sick, and I can't function.
Well, that's good. I mean, if it's not doing anything for you, why drink it? So
yeah, just making me mean. That's all it did, is make me mean.
All right.
Exactly. I wasn't the lover guy, you know.
Hey, I'll tell you something else. I know we got to go on this one, but we got to do a bike setup conversation, you know, sometime. I like to do the John and Tally Shane hit one, so that'd be a funny conversation. We talk a bunch of smack, but maybe a bike setup one, you know, what we think we'll do works versus motocross and TT racing and caster camera toe in ride height, and what ride height split does for the machine, and higher front ends and lower front ends, and, you know, all that stuff. And a lot of these guys have no clue of how to set up a machine. And, you know, when you raise the bike, just give it more or less traction. When you lower the bike, more or less traction. When you make it wider or narrower, all this kind of stuff that I think that I teach in my schools, but I think it'd be kind of cool to do on air. And I obviously like to plug my schools, but I'd like to share that with a lot of people, because a lot of people do the wrong things and buy the wrong products, and they waste a lot of time and money, and people get hurt because they don't know how to set up a machine.
I totally believe that 100%. One of the biggest things that I can contribute to that portion of the conversation is they're not going to the professionals that know. They're going to the person that has the cheapest price. And I'm sorry,
I see that a lot.
The guy with the cheapest price is not telling you the right thing. There's seasoned professionals in our industry that know, and they charge the prices they charge because they know how much time it takes. They know how hard it is. And this is what you need to follow these people.
Exactly. I mean, that's why my school costs what it costs. I mean, you got these other guys without naming names that are charging $200 for 5 hours or $75 for an hour. You can't teach somebody in 2 or 3 hours. And what are you going to teach them? You never won a race in your life. What are you talking about? So some of these guys out there, they're just, I'm like, they're whoring themselves out just to make a quick buck, and they don't even know what the hell they're doing.
Right. I agree with you. And I agree that I need to be a better teacher, because I can guarantee you there's things I can learn about what I know in my head and bringing it from my head to my mouth,
Right. Well, you're never too good to learn. If it's nothing else, learning how to relate and speak, teach somebody how to do something, not just show them how to do it. So that's something that, it took me several years to do. I got a whole new respect for my school teachers, so learning how to relate with people and how to read people when they're not getting it, and just, okay, let's go to something else. We'll come back to this. A lot of little things that the more you do it, the more you'll learn yourself.
Right.
And like I said, I still learn something all the time whenever I teach. So,
well, I was teaching my son how to be a mechanic, and fortunately he went into the health industry, and my grandson has great mechanical aptitude, and I'm trying to get it so that I work with him a couple days a month or more, to teach him how to use the tools. He's only 8, and the kid has incredible tool knowledge, not what the tool is, but when you put it in his hand, he already knows how to use it.
well, that's good.
And nobody's taught him. It's just a natural thing. So, using the right tools, most people are going to scoff at this, but if you put your machine together without a factory manual and without a torque wrench, you did it wrong.
Right.
Just point blank did it wrong. And hey, trust me, you well know this as well as I do. We did it without those tools for a long time in our industry, because we thought we knew better. And no, those torque specs are your friend.
And they are, because if you don't do that, then you start stretching those threads out and the frame out, everything. Next thing you know, you're over torquing it, and now your suspension ain't working right. So shit's binding up or whatever, So you're right. It's there for a reason, and if the bike will work better if you do it by spec.
Exactly.
I would never let my mechanic put a machine together with an impact. He always had to put it together by hand. He could take it apart with an impact or air tools, whatever, but putting it back together, it better be by hand.
I start 80% of the bolts with my impacts, and then I go back and torque everything.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about how it goes together, like when you set a set of A-arms in the frame, if it's not smooth, figure out why. There's a burr. Yeah. There's a buildup of powder coat. Something's not right. Figure it out.
Right.
And
all my mechanics, I would teach them all that and make sure that one little thing they had to do, because we'd have very little time between motos, is I don't care if one of my first mechanics, Todd Shue or Chris Delegard, or my last and longest mechanic, Bill Mickey, I need that motor out my hand within 10 minutes. And most of them, my Bill would get it out. I think his best time was like 4.5, 5 minutes. I'd come in, he'd have that motor sitting on the ground like 5 minutes.
That's freaking incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's freaking,
that's
a lot of, I'm pretty fast, but I don't think I could do it that fast.
Well, don't get me wrong, it's a mess. Because you can't time to drain antifreeze properly and drain the oil. He just zip, and just jerked. Just had a heat glove, the little wired heat gloves on so he could touch the pipe and everything. Right. And he would always get it out. I think his best time was 4.5, 5 minutes. He always got it under 10 minutes. But yeah, he was pretty darn fast.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive.
And then cleaning up the mess afterwards probably took an hour.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so he take it apart and put the new engine right back in there, and then you get it all going. Then he start making sure everything was ready. He changed the air filters and all that, check everything out. But if you ain't got an engine, you ain't racing. So we don't have about an hour between motos.
You guys did an engine swap every rip moto?
No, not every moto. No, we usually go to the race. Like we come home, take the bike down to the frame, and I get it. I'd only race the bike 2 or 3 times. That's it. And so in between races, we put brand new chains and sprockets and wheels and tires and axle and cables and clutches and piston and rings and valves in every race. Every race we replace most of the engine and most of the parts. In every moto, we put brand new tires on, brand new clutches on, and change the oil. So, but that ain't much time, But we don't only put, like I said, 2 or 3 races total on that bike. No practice sessions on nothing.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I should.
That's where having a factory help really help. You just had just buttloads of parts, bikes, and just, you never had anything used.
That's freaking awesome. That's super
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I still got a brand new engine sitting down there right now. I meant to show you a while ago. Brand new engine, never been touched.
You need to ship that to me. Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV Talk and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show.